3/10 of a mile into the course, the road disappears. You drop off the top of Bray Hill at 190 miles per hour, and the tarmac just falls away beneath you. And for a moment, the bike is weightless. The stone walls are inches from your elbows, and there is nothing between you and whatever happens next. No barriers, no gravel trap, no runoff, just a public road, a dry stone wall, and consequence. 37.73 miles, 200 corners, speeds that crack 200 miles per hour through village streets where the houses sit right at the road's edge. This isn't a circuit. It's a mountain, a town center, a farming valley, and a seaside promenade, all stitched together and raced at speeds that would get you arrested on any motorway in Europe. 269 riders have died here since 1907. The race has never hidden that number. So the question isn't why riders keep coming back. The question is why the world's biggest motorcycle brands do.
Down the bottom of Ray Hill. Here's your man, Joey Dunlop then. That is a famous helmet on a famous mark.
Carl Fogarty, Yamaha's hot favourite. 6.4. That was the gap of the start line as Hislop hammers Ray Hill on the final lap.
Act 1, a race born from a ban. The answer starts with a law. In 1904, Britain's Motor Car Act effectively killed any chance of racing on public roads on the mainland. Speed trials, circuit events, any kind of organized racing on open tarmac, gone. For the car industry, it was an inconvenience. For the motorcycle industry, which was still trying to prove its machines were worth buying, it was closer to a death sentence. These companies needed a stage. They needed somewhere to prove their bikes could hold together under real pressure, in front of real people at real speeds. They found it in the Irish Sea. The Isle of Man sits between Britain and Ireland, a self-governing crown dependency with its own parliament and its own laws. What Westminster banned, Douglas could permit. And in 1907, the first tourist trophy race ran on the island's roads. The name told you exactly what it was meant to be. Not a spectacle, a test, a reliability trial. Manufacturers entered because finishing mattered as much as winning, because a bike that crossed the line proved something a brochure never could. Those first machines were barely motorcycles by any modern definition. Single-cylinder engines, bicycle frames reinforced with wishful thinking, brakes that were more suggestion than engineering. Riders averaged under 40 miles per hour. They also fell off constantly, broke down in the hills, and pushed their machines through sections the engines couldn't handle. And yet, the results mattered, because the whole industry was watching. By 1911, the Snaefell Mountain Course was established, the same layout that exists today, adding a climb to nearly 1,400 feet above sea level. The course didn't just test speed, it tested everything. Heat, cold, gradient, surface change, mechanical stress sustained over distance. Norton, AJS, and Velocette understood this immediately. Their TT wins weren't trophies to put in a cabinet. They were the entire sales argument. Winning here wasn't a marketing slogan. It was how these companies stayed alive. The island's legislative independence made it the only place on Earth where this kind of racing was legal. That exclusivity did something no advertising budget could manufacture. It made the TT matter before anyone fully understood why.
I presume it's a masterpiece of understatement to say that you are extremely anxious to win.
Act 2. The brands that built empires here. Norton was the first brand to really understand what the TT could do for a company's reputation. Through the 1920s and into the 1930s, their dominance on the mountain course turned a small Birmingham factory into a name people trusted across Europe and beyond. The Manx Norton became the bike serious riders wanted precisely because it had been proven somewhere serious. Not on a smooth oval, not on a purpose-built test track, but on public roads with stone walls and weather that changed 3 times in a single lap. That provenance was worth more than any spec sheet. Then the Italians arrived, and the whole thing got more complicated. Gilera and MV Agusta came in mid-century with a different philosophy. Where the British built for reliability and durability, the Italians brought raw speed and engineering ambition that hadn't been seen at the TT before. Multi-cylinder engines, exotic materials, riders like Jeff Duke and later Mike Halewood who pushed those machines to places nobody thought possible. The TT became a proxy war between British iron and Italian engineering, and the rest of the motorcycle world watched to see who'd blink first. Neither did, which is why that era produced some of the fastest and most dangerous racing the course has ever seen. But the shift that changed everything happened in 1961, and it was 7 years in the making. In 1954, Soichiro Honda stood up at a company meeting and told his engineers that Honda would enter the Isle of Man TT and they would win it. At the time, Honda was building small commuter bikes for a domestic market. They had no race infrastructure, no experience on European circuits, and no realistic path to competing against Norton, MV Agusta, or Gilera. He said it anyway, and he meant it as a 10-year corporate target, not a press release. The company spent the rest of the decade developing engines, recruiting talent, and studying every result that came out of the mountain course.
これ直線の上りだから抜くのには
出ますね、クリックにバカの下りが。
出るでしょ。
出るでしょ。もっと出るんじゃないですか。
150キロぐらいいくかな。じゃあ少しここはブレーキを早めにかけないと、やはりもう距離が非常に長いんだから、慌てて今追いついたからすぐ抜かなきゃいけないとか。
When Honda finally arrived at the TT in 1961, they weren't improvising. They were executing a plan that had been running since before most of the riders they were racing against had even held a license. Honda sent 4 Japanese riders to that 1961 TT with factory-prepared bikes and a level of preparation the paddock hadn't encountered before. They took the first 5 places in both the 125 cubic centimeters and 250 cubic centimeters classes. For the British and Italian manufacturers who treated the TT as their private competition, it was a warning they didn't fully absorb in time. He was a pub landlord from Ballymoney in Northern Ireland who drove to the island in a battered van, slept in it, and then went out and destroyed the competition on the most demanding course in the world. The people of the Isle of Man didn't just respect Joey Dunlop. They treated him the way other cultures treat monuments, as something permanent, something that belongs to the place itself. Between race seasons, that same van went somewhere else. Joey loaded it with food, medicine, and clothing and drove it alone across Europe to orphanages in Romania and Albania. No press team, no announcement. He'd drop off the supplies, turn around, and drive home. Most people who followed his racing career didn't know about it until after he died. The racing made him famous. The van trips are why the statue of him in Ballymoney still gets flowers left at its base. Honda wasn't there to race. They were there to learn. Every mechanical failure, every handling problem the mountain course exposed, every component that cracked or overheated or wore out faster than expected got documented and taken back to the factory in Japan. The TT was a live research program disguised as a race entry. Within a few years, the lessons Honda took home from the Isle of Man were being sold in showrooms, cooling systems refined under mountain conditions, reliability targets set by what it took to complete the full circuit at race speed without anything breaking. The gap between Honda's race bikes and their production machines was smaller than anyone at the time admitted, and that was entirely deliberate. Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki followed the same blueprint. Each brand used the TT as a stress test that no closed circuit could replicate, because closed circuits are controlled environments, and the mountain course is anything but. Surface conditions shift mid-lap. Temperature drops on the climb. The bumps between Solby Bridge and Ramsey punish anything that isn't built to absorb real-world imperfections at speeds that make those imperfections genuinely dangerous. What came through that test intact went into production. What didn't got redesigned until it could. Through the 1960s and 1970s, the Japanese brands weren't just winning races. They were systematically dismantling the market share that Norton, BSA, and Triumph had built over decades. Manufacturers tracked sales data closely enough to see the spikes that followed TT victories. It wasn't coincidence. Riders who'd watched Honda or Yamaha win on the most demanding course in the world went to dealerships and bought what those brands were selling because the mountain course had answered the question a test ride couldn't. Ducati and BMW came later, but their logic was identical. BMW's entry into the superbike class brought their engineering culture into direct contact with a course that doesn't forgive theoretical performance. When Peter Hickman set the outright lap record on an S1000RR in 2018, BMW had the number they needed, and they used it. The press release went out within hours. That record wasn't just racing news. It was a product claim backed by 37.73 miles of evidence nobody could argue with. What every brand that showed up here understood, even the ones who took decades to figure it out, is that TT credibility doesn't transfer from other forms of motorsport. You can win at Mugello, at Silverstone, at the Nürburgring, and none of it means what a single mountain course lap means, because none of those places ask the same questions. Act 3. The Dunlop Dynasty and the Human Cost. If the brands gave the TT its commercial weight, it was the riders who gave it something harder to quantify and impossible to fake. Joey Dunlop won 26 TT races across 4 decades. That number sits alone in the record books, and nothing in the race's 118-year history comes close to it. He won his first in 1977 and his last in 2000, 3 weeks before his 48th birthday, at a race in Estonia, where he died after losing control on a wet road. He wasn't a factory superstar built by a marketing department. He was a pub landlord from Ballymoney in Northern Ireland who drove to the island in a battered van, slept in it, and then went out and destroyed the competition on the most demanding course in the world. The people of the Isle of Man didn't just respect Joey Dunlop. They treated him the way other cultures treat monuments, as something permanent, something that belongs to the place itself. His brother Robert raced here too. Robert Dunlop was a multiple TT winner in his own right, a smaller, quieter version of the same relentless talent. He died in 2008 at the Northwest 200, another closed-road race on the Irish coast during practice. He was 47. His son William was at the circuit that day and watched it happen. William Dunlop kept racing after that. He carried the name back to the Isle of Man and kept showing up, kept pushing, kept honoring something that had already taken his father. He stepped back from racing in 2018 to focus on his young family, and 3 months later, he died in a crash during a practice session at the Skerries Road Races in Ireland. He was 32. That's 3 generations of one family, and not one of them died in a hospital bed. Michael Dunlop, Joey's son, is still racing. He's now the most decorated active rider in TT history with 25 wins, one behind his father's record, and closing in on it 1 race at a time. In the 2026 opening qualifying session, he lapped above 130 miles per hour on a course still damp from the previous night's weather, right alongside Dean Harrison, Nathan Harrison, and Josh Brooks, all 4 of them at speeds that would have been considered impossible on this road 20 years ago. Michael doesn't give long interviews about legacy or family pressure. He goes fast, and he wins. The death toll at the TT is not a footnote. It's a fact the race has never once tried to soften or reframe. 269 riders have died on this course since 1907. Some years pass without a fatality. Other years take 2 or 3. The 2026 season delivered its reminder early. A sidecar crew came off at Brandish during the first qualifying session. Both riders conscious but injured. The red flag ending the night before the timesheet was anywhere near settled. That's the rhythm of TT Week. Fast laps and ambulances, sometimes within the same hour. And the entry list for the following session stays full regardless. What the TT has never done is pretend the danger is negotiable. There are no runoff areas because there's nowhere to put them. The stone walls along Kirkmichael Village sit at the road's edge because they were there before the race existed, and they'll be there after it's gone. The moss that grows on those walls in the damp months doesn't get cleared before race week. Riders clip the edge of it on fast right-handers, close enough that the green smear shows up on their leathers after a session. That's not a detail the organizers can engineer away. It's just the road. Riders who come here understand this in a way that doesn't translate easily to people who haven't stood at the side of the road and watched a superbike pass at 180 miles per hour close enough to feel the air move. The danger isn't the unfortunate side effect of the TT's format. It's the reason the results carry the weight they do. A lap record set here means something different from a lap record set anywhere else, because everyone who's ever watched this race knows exactly what the rider risked to set it. Every manufacturer in the paddock knows it too, and every single one of them has chosen to come back anyway. That choice is not accidental. It is a calculation, and the number always comes out the same. Conclusion: the Isle of Man. TT survives because it offers something no other race can: unquestionable proof. For riders, it's the ultimate test of skill. For manufacturers, it's the ultimate test of engineering. Every lap is run on roads that forgive nothing and expose every weakness. The danger is real, the cost is undeniable, and yet the world's biggest motorcycle brands keep returning for the same reason they always have. Because if a machine can win here, it can sell anywhere.